Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to today's podcast. We are basically continuing our Edgar Wright journey into his newest film, which is Last Night in Soho.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got troubles, all the noise and the hurry seems to help. I know downtown. Just listen to the music of the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalks where the neon signs are pretty. How can you lose? The lights are much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles, forget all your cares. So go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. No finer place for sure. Downtown. Everyone's waiting for you. Everyone's waiting for you. Do you believe in ghosts?
Joining me again is our regular collaborator, Aryan. And we also have another returning guest from the old episode and the Free Guy episode, Vashist who's also going to chip in about Edgar Wright a little bit in general, and then talk a lot about Last Night in Soho, which we plan to cover first in sort of our initial thoughts and everything, and then we plan to go into spoiler territory. So please make sure you take caution. My God, I'm bad at this. Anyways, Vashist, first we'll go to you just because Aryan and me have blabbered about Edgar Wright so much in our previous episode that what do you think of his filmography in general, and where do you stand with respect to him as a filmmaker?
I am a big fan of his work. Like, I'm assuming both of you are, and
Yeah,
kind of like most cinephiles are. So it's
yeah,
like kind of one of those films that you put on when you're not really feeling good and you just want something lighthearted, something fun
yeah,
to watch and to just enjoy. So that's how I would describe him. He's kind of funny. His films are kind of funny in a in a very happy way.
yeah,
It kind of makes you always feel like, even if you're in a bad mood or something, you just, for the timing, you're like, yeah, I'm fine. So, like, for example, if I had college exams one night and I wasn't able to study, so I just put on Hot Fuzz, and I
always
loved
put on
every
Hot
second of
Fuzz.
it.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's there. And obviously with last night, and so I was very much excited because obviously he's trying something completely different from his
Yeah,
comfort zone, and his inspirations, which I've seen from time to time, are now properly there. The horror inspirations
yeah,
are properly there in this film.
yeah,
So that's what really got me excited.
yeah.
So yeah.
So Aryan, what about your sort of? And I think Bashir's kind of set us up for this. So I'll just ask you directly, like, what are your sort of pre thoughts going into Last Night in Soho?
So I went into the film just like the protagonist of this film enters the Rialto, okay, without knowing anything, without having no context, without
Yep.
even watching the trailer or even reading the plot synopsis, to be very honest.
Hmm.
Because I read the name and I was like, I'm in for this, and I've been waiting and like desperately to watch this movie ever since it was announced, and it's been delayed like 4 times now, okay.
Yeah.
It finally released in India last this week.
After Book My Show conned us that it
Yeah.
was releasing earlier, right? Yeah.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
And this is what I
They
wrote.
almost conned me too.
Oh
Yeah.
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 At least it didn't. We didn't. It didn't do it as bad as the way it treated the French Dispatch, right? They at least released it.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
God.
that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I wrote on my letterbox Letterboxd and on my page. Known for his distinct style and incredibly genius writing, Edgar Wright's new film explores some unexplored territory of embracing the nature of nostalgia without getting hurdled into its toxicity. It has
Hmm.
some of the best production design, sound mixing, and of course, short composition that I've watched all year in a film. Though a departure from his previous work in terms of tone and story, the film definitely has his trademark style written all over it.
Hmm.
Go support this film, as not a lot of contemporary filmmakers make films like these anymore.
Hmm. So, I mean, you both have pretty much set this up quite well. I think it's just, I think I was not only excited for Edgar Wright, though, I was very excited for the two female leads in this. I'm a big fan of Thomas and Mackenzie, and that gives me an opportunity to plug her one film that's not that much seen, and I recommend everyone to see, which is Deborah Granick's Leave No Trace. That's her first film, and she's phenomenal in it. Probably still her best performance, even though she's fantastic in this film. And Anya Taylor-Joy, who's become a sensation after The Queen's Gambit, but is also fantastic in Robert Eggers' The Witch. So again, it's like, you see three people who you really love and admire come together and make a horror film, which you also in general love. It's like, what is there not to get excited about, right? I saw the trailer and I very briefly glossed over some of the initial reviews. And I kind of went, okay. I mean, there was only one thing with the trailer where I was like a bit like, I'm not sure how Edgar Wright's style will mesh with horror. Like there was a little bit of that trepidation, I guess, but yeah, like the initial responses came and I was a bit like, oh, uh, maybe my expectations are a little too high, were a little too high, and I was mildly heartbroken by some of the harsh responses to it. I also think that's just because I think I do genuinely find Edgar Wright really lovely, even as a film lover and a director, right? So I think that's basically the way we sort of approached it. Now we can go first to like initial thoughts about the actual film. Aryan's kind of alluded to his initial thoughts, though he can elaborate a little bit also. And then we can go on to Vashist, and then I'll pitch in last. Go ahead, Aryan.
So yeah, I mean, we have seen so many films, especially in the past 5 years, I guess, that make sure that they cash in as much as extra money from the viewers, from the audience, just on this one theme of nostalgia, right?
Hmm.
We saw how Steven Spielberg went down the slippery slope of throwing in every 80s pop culture reference into his 2018, 2017 film, Ready Player One.
Ready Player One.
And yeah, even though I loved watching that film while it unfolded in front of the screen, right? It was an action spectacle, right? As one might
Hmm.
come to expect from a Spielberg film.
Yeah.
But I've not watched it ever since. I've not revisited that film, and neither have I any proper memory of that film, which speaks volumes. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's just one of the films that has cashed it into this pseudo nostalgia ka theme, and how great for a filmmaker to step in
Hmm.
and just grab a beer and go, oh my god, even though you guys are going crazy,
Grab a beer,
and
did you say?
yeah, just
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I thought you
In
were
hot
like
fuzz, in hot fuzz
referencing.
terms,
grab a
it's grab a
cornet or
pint.
otherwise.
Grab a
Yeah,
pint.
Exactly.
grab a cornet. Yeah.
Yeah.
How great for a filmmaker to step in and be like, maybe nostalgia isn't that good of a thing. And I know that a lot of people are throwing shit at this film, especially this one letterbox review which I read, which I
Yeah.
won't name. But that guy, that person was like, well, now Everard is just going like, don't screw nostalgia, fuck nostalgia. And I don't think that's the point of the film. The film very cleverly tells us that it's okay to embrace the nostalgia without getting hurdled into its toxicity, right?
Hmm.
Because I remember the one scene that stood out to me in my mind is that scene when our protagonist, what's her name in the film, Emma or something,
Eloise. Eloise,
Alois,
I think. Yeah.
Eloise, right. So when she goes back to a hallway and we see things unfold from her perspective, and she sees what shitty things brew behind those
Yeah.
curtains of glamour and all. And that one scene emphasizes, that one scene speaks volumes, right? That one scene gets embodied. It embodies the entire theme of the film, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's clear inspiration from Suspiria and other horror classics and all. But yeah,
Yeah.
I really
That's
easily this is one of the most technically brilliant film. One of the most technically brilliant films of the year. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Vishesh.
yeah, that was one catch that I like had when the first look of the movie came out, the trailer and all that. It gave a lot of Suspiria vibes. I was like,
Mm.
this is something, Dario Argento meets Edgar Wright is something that it's a dream come true. And
Yeah.
obviously, like, my expectations were high, even higher
Mm.
till last week, that okay, this is going to be good. But then it was slightly disappointing to say,
Mm.
and it has turned out to be my least favorite Edgar Wright movie.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would love to rewatch it,
But
because
what
I
does
think
least favorite mean to you? Like in a sort of broader context. Like what is does least favorite mean you still like it, right? Kind of like that.
I still love it. I still love it. I
Yes,
think if I
exactly.
compare
Yeah.
it to
Yeah.
like if I compare it to his other films, then yeah, it does kind of pale in comparison.
Yeah.
So that's there. But yeah, the thing is, it was a bit disappointing. But
Mm.
as Aryan said, that the nostalgia part was like, especially the way they started the film, the way the 60s nostalgia comes into the picture. So
Yeah.
that was really brilliant. Plus that amazing soundtrack, and like I was moving toward the entire
Yeah.
film,
Yeah.
and that it's there. That excitement is there from the start. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think after that, things get a bit more weird and things get a bit more complex, way too complex for maybe a psychological thriller like that.
Got it.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's there.
Yeah. So I mean, I liked it also. I mean, I went in with tempered expectation. I had read a couple of very scathing reviews, and I was like, okay. I was quite like worried about me not liking, outright not liking an Edgar Wright film. So I was like very glad to be on its side. I think it's one third phenomenal, one third good but repetitive, and one third kind of convoluted, which is what I came around with it. Like my thoughts around it were that, but I think the central performance pretty much carries it through its rough patches for me. I think Wright as a director has really changed his style here. It's to me, even though the flashes of him are visible here, there are also things which I was like, is this like really Edgar Wright? Like he's completely changed some of the things that I expect from him, which I like. I don't think a director should be constrained by his smash cuts and whip pans and things jumping in and out of the frame, right? And yeah, again, I really like the construction of it. Though I think it's got fair amounts of problems, and we'll discuss them when we get into spoilers, right? But I think from all our ends, as in all three of us, will recommend it, right? Right.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yep, definitely.
Even
Especially if you
more
watch it in the
so.
hall.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh
That's
God,
one.
this is gonna come back now. Sanjeet is probably like shouting.
No, but
Yeah.
serious Cats versus that especially watched in a hall, right? And this film really deserves everyone's support, right? If
Yeah.
especially people who tag themselves as cinephiles, right? I mean,
Ouch. I mean,
looking at
I also tag myself as that. But if it was
yeah,
available online, I
no,
would have watched.
I'm referring to us very gladly, and even like looking at the last duel's performance and now this, it's like very
Mm.
sad seeing films like these, which are such so well presented, like the just the presentation of
Yeah.
this film. Like I have a lot of flaws with this film, okay,
Yeah.
but at the same time I also realized that this film is more about that mood creating. It's more about the themes that it's trying to sell, and in
Mm.
that aspect the presentation of it all, it's so good at that aspect of filmmaking that I
Mm.
have to sit and a bit be biased about the storyline, which is really, to be very honest, it gets convoluted at times and all. But I mean, do you guys want to talk about the brilliant sound mixing in this film?
Yeah, we'll so what we'll do is, yeah, go ahead, talk about the technical elements. That doesn't have spoilery elements. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Aryan, Vashist, you begin if you have anything to say
Uh,
about the sound mix.
since he mentioned the way the film is presented, the first thing that struck me was the production design and the what do you call, the cinematography of the film.
Hmm.
If you notice, like the 60s part, when you go in there, like
Hmm.
when you watch, Elvis comes out of into a dream and sees the Thunderball poster there.
Yeah.
You remember that shot, right?
Yeah.
So in that is again very brilliantly done. But if you look at it very carefully, obviously it feels like the 60s is some kind of a magical world.
Yeah.
And like for us, at least for us who are into filmmaking and in all of that, so we
Hmm.
kind of do realize that yes, these are kind of visual effects, this is kind of CGI that we
Hmm.
can notice there, but it's done in such a way that it never feels off-putting
Hmm.
whenever we see bad green screen work or bad VFX. So that
Yeah.
really impressed me, and it's there in all the scenes of the past.
Yeah.
And it's obviously the film is gorgeous. I must say the lighting is obviously Suspiria inspired,
The
and
emphasis on the
You
blues and reds and everything. Yeah.
you've got red on you.
yeah.
Yes, that's the one thing that kept on going in my head with respect to like lighting in
Hmm.
this film. I was like, I can't stop thinking about that Shaun of the Dead dead thing. Uh, but yeah, it's like the sound mixing as sorry, Aryan had mentioned it. Yeah, it's that I was like watching it and it's that eerie feeling of like
Hmm.
everything around you sort of rattling, like everything, the background noise is sort of kind of clicking behind your head, and like you can sort of take in like the whole experience. I guess this is sounding like a cinema going experience. So congratulations, Sanjeet. But yeah, it is really something to experience, I guess.
Exactly.
But
And you know, for quite some time, I kept feeling like this might be the least fleshed out Edgar Wright character easily that his film has ever come up with, right? But then, as Edgar Wright films normally usually do, this film kept growing on me, okay? And then I
hmm,
started thinking, maybe I'm looking too much into this, but what a great way to portray this theme about the toxicity of nostalgia, about how a certain time in history might appear to be certain way, it might appear to be very, you know, well and good in your memory, in
yeah,
your head, in your abstract memory, but in
yeah,
real it was shitty, right? In real on grounds, behind all that facade, it was maybe worse than
yeah,
what our culture looks like right now, right?
yeah,
Even though it, yeah, and what a great way to showcase that aspect of our nostalgia about our world through a protagonist who is doing something so glamorous like fashion designing
hmm,
and all, who's into art, who's like very good looking,
yeah,
he's very cheaply casted, such a good looking, like
yeah,
a very a very famous star, right? Off from a success like Jojo Rabbit. So he
yeah,
casted someone like this, and what a great way to portray a theme like that through a
hmm,
protagonist who is actually appearing to be like a good coming of age story, like a fashion designer who's going to this great
yeah,
city, who's going to London and who'll learn a lot and make a
hmm,
breakthrough and all. But actually, she's at the back of the mind, quite literally going through a lot of shit because
yeah, yeah.
she's dealing with the grief and a loss of her mother
Outs
while also
outside her
dealing.
story, no, very, she's
Yeah,
feeling like outside her place, like
yeah, exactly.
literally in
And
some cases. Yeah,
at a point we even come to know that she has had like an incidence of schizophrenic episodes in her family. She has that running in
yeah,
her history. Yeah, she has her running in her family, past family history, right? So
mhm,
this adds on, this breaks that facade on both the storytelling level, on the structural level, as
mhm,
well as the backdrop of the film that the film is set in, which
yeah.
is 60s London. And when she sees that what is actually happening behind all that, glamorous life of, nightclubs
Behind
and all.
this mirror,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And this is that's why the film has, kept growing on me. And I'm damn sure that upon rewatch, I'll like it even better.
okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vashisht. Anything to say before we delve into like spoilery stuff? 'Cause, yeah,
Yeah, I think we can delve into spoilers, right?
yeah, we you directly want to jump there. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So yes, I'll start first. Or Vashisht, actually, you go first. Anything specific you liked about it or disliked? I know there's a couple of points which I disliked also. So go ahead. You can go with the
Yeah,
likes first
that's
or dislikes,
yeah,
whatever.
that's the thing. I'm kind of itching to talk about the issues that
Yeah,
that's the
go
only
ahead.
thing that's coming in my mind right now. So,
Go ahead.
like any of you can go ahead first, so that I can't think of anything right now about liking it.
Anything great about it? No, I just think in terms of like great stuff, I think honestly, Thomas and Mackenzie was my conduit into the world. It was, the wonder and terror of London, 60s London, both is so I mean, she's got like big wide eyes, right? And she's really expressive with those eyes. Like you can really feel her excitement, and then she becomes like supremely timid. Like her performance is pretty much in sync with the expressive colors, and the way Wright is constructing it is much more inspired by Bollywood, I think, in some ways. Like the color use and everything is properly like bursting at the seams of it and everything, right? So I think in that respect, I really I bought into her performance. I think her performance does a lot of heavy lifting character work wise, which I think could otherwise kind of be more of a cipher. The character could be. I think again, you guys have mentioned the production design. Everything is fantastic. I think the film's first 30 minutes. I don't know. I didn't clock it or anything, but the film's first movement is absolutely fantastic. I think the switch that happens the first time Eloise goes and becomes Sandy is one of my favorite sequences this year. Like the camera sort of pulls back and then it pans to the left, I think, and then we follow her, and the soundtrack is playing at a sort of lower bass or amplitude at that time. And then as you sort of step into the world, it like gradually builds and kind of reminds me of Baby Driver, how it kind of uses sound to build up to a moment and like sort of explode at that moment. And as soon as it exploded, I was like, wow, like that's how you kind of go from one place to another. So that was lovely. And then there's the other scene where Eloise is coming down the stairs, and the reflective mirrors may you see like sorry, Sandy is coming down the stairs and Eloise is in like these fractured reflective mirrors, and that's like I was like, this is incredible. And
Brilliant.
it is a joy to, I think as cinephiles, it's joy to sometimes watch a filmmaker make those types of stylistic touches. It's really fun to watch. And I think up until the point where Eloise sees Sandy getting stabbed, I think the film's all these formal touches also kind of hold like a great novelty to it. I really like the musical number that happens when she discovers that Sandy is not the main centerpiece of the whole attraction there, but she's just another girl. So there's this scene where he's doing this. It reminded me strangely of The Handmaiden, which which is kind of understandable considering the cinematographer is the same. But the production design, everyone, all the female people characters have like keys on them, and then the locks are there, like all that stuff. I quite enjoyed. I think the film kind of slips away after that in different ways, though it doesn't entirely like slip away. But yeah, any more positives before we delve into the issues? Please go ahead.
Actually, shall I go?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, like you mentioned, the first 30 or 40 minutes of the film where she is just, excited about going to London and being making it in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
That's also what I agree with and I really like a lot. The
Yeah.
other thing which I think is very, not very noticeable, but it's
Yeah.
I think it's noticeable, but I I'll just say it that there's this friendship, not weird, there's a very strong friendship, strong bond between Eloise and Sandy right from the
Yeah.
start till
Yeah.
the end of the film. Even when she's, like, spoilers obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
she's the old lady, that friendship I really loved. That was the
Yeah.
only thing towards the end, even though there were a lot of flaws that was going on in my mind,
Hmm.
that thing towards the end kept me going. I really loved
Hmm.
that part. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, two women toxic in a world full of toxic masculinity, just being
Yeah.
helping hands for each other, just being a support
Yeah.
for each other.
Yeah. I
That
think
was very sweet and warm, I think.
that's very true. I think again, I think the performances really play a part here. I think like the both of them, there's one or two shots in which Thomas and Mackenzie looks a lot like Anya Taylor-Joy, and I was like
Exactly. Yeah.
uncannily like that, and I was like, I never thought I saw these actresses looking alike. And because I think they kind of have that similar facial
Mm.
expression to them also, that friendship and sameness and whatever camaraderie probably like
Mhm.
shows up more in this than probably the film kind of gestures towards in the end. But yeah, I totally agree with whatever Vashist said there. Aryan, anything you were saying?
This is the kind of film that I wanted bad times at El Royale to be,
Oh,
right?
okay.
That this is the kind like, and the film is like, when it comes to this film, it poses such interesting questions, right?
Hmm.
Because it poses questions like, is Sandy a figment of Eloise'
Yeah,
overheated
okay.
imagination, or a wish fulfillment, or anything like that? Or is she just someone who's made up from across generations as a genuine connection for Eloise, right?
I mean, there's
Keep
sorry,
one.
there's that suggestion towards the end that Sandy might as well be her mother, kind of,
Exactly, exactly.
right?
So
Yeah.
the film poses a lot of these interesting questions until it doesn't, right? Until it rolls back on some of that. Like now we might get into some of the real problems and loopholes. Loopholes is, I guess, a
Mhm.
bit of word, right?
Yeah.
Because I vividly remember, and I noticed this right after the movie ended. Okay, during
Hmm.
the last act, ki, how do you explain that connection, which the actual physical implications that Eloise's character had, right? Because in
Hmm.
that first sequence, I guess first 60s sequence where she goes back in time and all, we see that the next day when she wakes up, she literally has a hickey on her neck, right?
Yeah.
So how is that? How do you explain that? Was that because there's also that there might be an explanation for that, because we hear from that doctor or someone like that, there's episodes of schizophrenia in her family
Hmm.
history and all. So maybe she's just imagining that. But
Yeah.
if that's the case, then why not address it again? Because being Edgar Wright, you
Hmm.
are so like epitome of addressing things again and
Setups and
again, and
payoffs, right?
looping.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
foreground, background, everything's a setup, right?
Yeah.
Everything is leading up to something. Then why not address this very important
Hmm.
aspect of your film and world building?
Yeah. Yeah, Vashish. Say. I'm waiting for my turn. Like you go ahead first. Yeah.
I guess the hickey part, maybe it's kind of like, it's kind of, you could say a very symbolic way of saying that she's literally and even physically transported to the past, to
Hmm.
to a time and place that she, loves so much. Like she's kind of an outcast among her friends.
No, but
She kind of
also,
relates.
sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt, Vashish. No, also I think there's that suggestion, no, that the bar and that place are the same things, right? So I guess when Eloise is going down there, so when Sandy is going down there, it can also mean that Eloise is going down there. Like the bar place is
yeah,
no different to this other place, right? That's the whole suggestion that past and present are kind of coexisting together.
See, the thing is, there's a
that's
lot of possible explanations for that, and I am a sucker for good ambiguity in film.
Yeah,
But my problem is that if you're building a world, you have to set some basic principles that you have to
hmm.
adhere to. Especially if that
Yeah,
world building is so absurd and over the top. I don't know.
yeah, it
But
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you have to address these issues. Otherwise, you can't just do anything that you like. And I guess
yeah.
that's the thing where a lot of critics and a lot of even audiences are, you know, checking out of the film,
Hmm. I mean,
which is
I would.
unfortunate, right? Yeah.
I would argue there are other points also, in the sense that the film isn't scary. Like that's a
exactly,
the
exactly. I was just about to say that the horror part of the film is, I don't know, it's not scary. It feels like me 4 years back writing my first script. I'm making a student film. It
yeah,
feels like that, the horror part. It feels like, okay, these are, you know,
yeah.
those apparitions that are there, those spirits that are there. It feels,
See,
I don't know, it's not scary. It's not
you know,
scary at all.
that's the thing though. I think he's kind of doing it deliberately. I think, right. I think there's that Jalo inspiration. There's that, slightly over the top inspiration always, and it reminded me, the spirits part especially reminded me of Crimson Peak, another film by Guillermo del Toro, another film I don't find scary at all, but that spirit thing,
Fantasy element.
yeah, like I got the fantasy element of it, but it didn't really make a big impact. And I think the film is saying something very serious for it to take inspiration from Jalo, I think. I mean, that's me saying, as someone who doesn't know much about Jalo outside of Suspiria. So like I don't know much about it. But the point is the horror isn't
It's
scary.
just beautiful women getting brutally killed. That's yellow in general.
Yeah, but if it's that, it's done in a much more tongue-in-cheek way, right? Isn't it much more like self-aware, not self-aware even, but like much more, the direction is too over emphasized. And
I
yeah,
guess it just borrows from the giallo genre. For example, the neon soaked lighting, very
yeah,
expressive lighting. Obviously, huge ass knives to kill people, and a lot, and even the blood. I'm not sure if I'm the one, but if you notice in the scene where she's killed, Sandy is killed in the bed, the
yeah,
blood that's there on her neck and all her body, that blood, that texture of the blood is very similar to what what I had seen in Suspiria,
yeah,
when the girl gets killed at the start.
yeah,
That blood is not how we see blood. It's very weird red color.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know.
It's like
It could just be a very
colorful. Huh, but I think all of that has much more of a playful tone, though.
Yeah.
Wright's film doesn't have a playful tone at all, I think, which is the
exactly.
most surprising part to me. Like, I think he trades in the humor too much. I think he reveals
Like
humor too much.
too many clashing tones in certain scenes,
A
right?
little bit with the horror, I
And
think,
especially,
especially.
see the horror. Like I was just trying not to say anything because I genuinely wanted to listen to the other side of the opinion. But as I said, that I went into this film without even reading its plot or watching the
Yeah.
trailer. Okay, so I am like a live example. Okay, for anyone who wants a counter because I had literally no expectations about this film being a horror, and
Hmm.
that's why it worked way better for me because I know that even if Wright goes for horror, it won't be the conventional horror. And
Yeah.
this film is clearly a psychological drama. But since it's, if I'm not sure, I don't want to be wrong over here, but it is a Universal Pictures distribution, right?
Yeah. I think
Focus
so.
is along
Focus, there
with
was like a
them.
lot of people who were distributing it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there were two studios. So I think the main problem isn't with Edgar Wright's writing or direction. I mean,
Hmm.
there's definitely not among his best films,
Hmm.
but I think the main issue is the marketing
Hmm.
because this has been marketed as a horror film, like a
But it is,
not
no, I
that.
think, Aryan. Don't you think
I
it
It is
is?
don't.
technically it
It is
is
more like a
like
psycholo. Hmm.
But psychological horror, no, like his inspirations are so inspired. Like his inspirations are so rooted in horror and psychological
But
horror that.
see, Dhruv, when it
like
comes
it
to
it
horror genre, see, it's probably my favorite genre on par with action genre. Okay,
Hmm.
so I am speaking this on behalf of being like a massive horror genre fan. Okay, I'm a
Yeah.
sucker for good horror movies,
Hmm.
but horror is the most subjective of all genres, right?
Of
So
course.
what
Yeah.
scares you is because
Hmm.
for me, good horror is always one that happens at the most human psychological level.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Of course.
Shining,
Yeah.
and we talked about Midnight Mass, right?
Yeah.
So that aspect of horror is the most is the scariest for me. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't know, man. Like it worked for me. I wasn't
Yeah.
on the contrary, I wasn't scared at all in this film. So yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the very I had noted this like this parts that was scary to me. Vashist, you can go ahead. By the way, yeah? I'm looking through my notes
uh,
if there's anything here. Yeah.
okay. Actually, what Aryan said was that was a very good point because since he comes from a perspective that without any like expectations from a film like this, but I think there's something I'm pretty sure you might have also noticed, both of you, that in the horror scenes that are there where the spirits
Hmm.
come and the way they have been shot, the way they have been shown,
Hmm.
and if you notice how the sound design is done, how the sound effects have been done, it feels as if, at least the sound feels as if it wants us to feel scared. It wants us to. It has those classic horror trope sounds
Yeah.
and soundtracks that want to make you feel scared, but the visuals on the screen just don't match with it.
Yeah.
So I feel like the sounds is telling something else, and the visuals are telling some other story. So there is a mismatch there.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think
think that's the reason why I felt it was not really scary as such.
I think I agree with Vishwish. I think it's more to do with that. That it's that element that he wants to scare. I think he genuinely does want to discomfort us. I think discomfort he maybe does for me in
Yeah,
a
it is
couple of
eerie.
instances.
Yeah.
Like there is one image of all these men breaking out of the walls and like writhing upon sort of what's the girl's name, Eloise, and kind of implying Sandy also. That's a fairly creepy image. I think there's like a couple of images again when we discover that Sandy is being exploited by like all the men in London almost. That image is kind of discomforting, but I think there are moments in which he really goes for like gore, shock, whatever. I think those moments don't gel with the psychological. aspect of it. I think if he stuck to, his one of his major inspirations is Mr. Polanski's Repulsion, which I mean, I was like, okay, but like it's a very different film. I think Repulsion is much more effective at like doing psychological horror. I mean, then also,
Exactly.
yeah, go ahead, Vashish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, you can go ahead.
No, I was just listing his inspirations, which like the Criterion thing did something where he had listed a bunch of his inspirations for this film, and
Hmm.
personas in it, like very highbrow references. Huh? Belle de
I
Jour is
See,
in
the
it.
persona inspiration,
I'm
persona
I'm
inspiration, I understand because of that
The
duality
split,
kind of.
yeah, duality,
no,
yeah,
no, no. But if you think about it, this Mulholland Drive fits perfectly in terms of inspirations. How
yeah.
come that is not an inspiration? Because it
I
has
mean,
all
he's
the
not
vibes.
listed it, but like well, I guess Mulholland Drive also came from a lot of persona, I guess. So it's like
Yeah,
referencing
exactly. That came
references,
from
right? So
Persona 2. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, persona is like now if someone references it, I'm just like, ठीक है, like वो तो होएगा ही reference किसी भी horror film में, like whatever from author director. But yeah,
Like वो
Black
Persona का
Nas,
shot इतना
yeah,
famous था. Like even Kota Factory has that shot. Like what is
what?
happening?
Kota Factory
Like
has a
that shot,
persona
that
shot.
no, no, yeah, the face, and
हाँ
the
हाँ,
other character comes from the side of the face.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
there
yeah.
even in Kota Factory. I'm like,
वो perpendicular
that's
shot, no,
nice.
almost like ऐसे जो you can like
हाँ हाँ
draw a
हाँ.
line like this basically through. I mean, I'm doing
Yeah, yeah,
signs which no one will understand, but okay.
yeah. Exactly.
Uh,
No,
but
but you mentioned Repulsion, and it just struck me that yeah, there is a bit of inspiration, but I think what you said, that Repulsion did it better because it kind of held back. It was very
it's a
minimalistic, or
yeah,
it
it's
was
a
very subtle.
very methodical. Like वही ना Jalo का
Hmm.
inspiration when you throw into Repulsion, I'm like it takes away a lot of things I think
Exactly. I
from it.
think kind of it loses it. Yeah.
Yeah. Aryan, go defend, defend Mr. Right.
Okay, so the thing is
You know
that
we
the
are going
horror.
to we are going to tag him in the review, right? So we need someone to defend so that he actually likes our review.
No, but seriously, like, definitely. I'm just, yeah, clickbait over. Yeah, no, but seriously,
No, I mean,
the horror elements over here don't feel like in the face horror. It's not in the face horror. The horror elements in itself in this film feel like merely they feel like suggestions, right? So that's why,
hmm,
and it works in favor of the story for me. I mean, I know
okay,
that I was not scared, to be very honest.
yep,
There was never a moment where I was scared, but I did feel uncomfortable a lot of the times,
yep,
and especially that first time where we out and out see that brutal violence of about that entire sequence right in bed for the first time where
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah,
get a, yeah, where she looks above and there's a mirror and all.
yeah,
That entire sequence, it's like 2 minutes or something.
yeah,
That entire sequence has to have probably the best editing I've seen in a film all year. The
yeah,
editing in that sequence, it's phenomenal, right? And
hmm,
when Vashish said that it really did not like the soundtrack, that was a great point because he said that the soundtrack didn't mesh very well, it didn't gel very well
hmm,
with the images that Wright
yeah,
was going on the screen, right? It's very ironic for a film, for a filmmaker who's so
hmm,
obsessed with synchronizing
yeah,
everything. It's very ironical, right? Because I
yeah,
feel that that's what I felt when it comes to certain scenes that the movie was going for, and even that entire sequence where she starts recording that uh she was doubting that he might be the guy, right? The old guy at the bar.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, she connects the dots and she comes to a conclusion in her head that
Hmm.
he might be the guy. Okay, he might be the
I
actual.
also came to that conclusion, TBS.
Yeah, it
So,
was very
yeah.
evident. Yeah, but
No, no,
when
I
she
came to
starts,
the wrong conclusion. I was with Eloise. I was like, oh,
okay.
definitely he'll be like the mad
Mm,
character. But then so this is the other problem. But before that, I just wanted to
mm,
talk about what was I going to talk about? I've forgotten. Never mind. So this brings me to the second problem, which is
mm,
like the script is kind of predictable. I
okay.
was never like, oh my, like except for the moment where it was like, oh, this old dude isn't like Matt. I was like, yeah, I know who the dynamic character in this is. Like, I knew from the get go who she is. Like, I was like, okay, I get that. So, like, how are you going to go about
Exactly.
it? So, I think the
Exactly.
predictability kills a lot of the horror in any case, I think for me. So, I've So I was basically like, okay, so you're going to go round about this way. So you basically need to make the build up really strong then, right? Because if you already know the twist, then it's like, what are you going to do then? So yeah, so I think the script that way is weak, and in some elements, I think I told you, just we mentioned the removal of humor almost entirely from the film is a weakness. I'm like, you can retain some of the right touches. Like there are some moments which are, I think, humorous. Like it's in the cuts again. It's like basically she's sitting, and like immediately you like cut to the morning scene or like whatever, like very
I'm
minor.
not the kind of person who would leave,
Yeah,
would
yeah,
live
I'm not.
in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next
So
scene, it's like very, huh?
exactly. It's like, but those are minimal, I think. And then
Hmm.
there's let's throw in some race into the mix, which is my
Please.
least favorite part of the film.
Hmm.
I was like, why? Who has told Edgar Wright that he needs to make a commentary about race in Last Night in Soho? Isn't the
But
film? Sorry, go ahead, Vashist. Yeah.
no, no, no. Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I thought the character was very tokenistic, like good, the good black character. And I'm just like, okay, I don't buy it.
Actually,
Yeah.
actually, when what is the landlady's name? I keep forgetting.
I mean, she is
Mrs.
Eloise, she is Sandy
El,
only, right? So, sorry.
so basically, the old Sandy when she stabs him,
Yeah.
I forget his name. I think John. I think I don't
Yes.
remember.
Yeah, yeah, we all forgot.
So I for a moment I was scared. Okay, this is horror film, and here is a black character getting stabbed. Is
Yeah.
Edgar Wright playing it to horror film cliches or
Yeah.
stereotypes? I was
Yeah.
scared for a moment. Okay, but then yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of a. I honestly liked his presence because he was
Okay.
the only person who kind of was listening to Eloise, was empathetic towards her. But it's
It's
like,
it's
it's
very
fine.
tropey, I think. Now it's become a trope where
It
you
is a
just
bit.
cast like an outsider character, make him black, and then. But apart from that purpose, he literally has no life, which is the other problem. Like it's like you're just there to like be, and then there's that very strangely dramatic moment where he's like, "I understand," because I have also felt like I've been an outsider, and I was like, "Really, you're going to throw that
Irritating.
at me?" I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, and it's not on the performance. I think it's on a very writing based level. It feels like a very inserted character. It could be a white character. I think it could be the same thing. You're mixing race very unconvincingly with the
Well,
whole outsider thing.
actually, this kind of commentary that he makes that you're mentioning brings me,
Hmm.
I think, to one of the main problems of the film, which is
We'll praise
like,
the film also again. Don't worry. We are not just
we will.
yeah.
Obviously, we will. ऐसे ही नहीं बोल रहा हॉल में जाके देख ले. So basically, the commentary that Wright wants to make with respect to the gender roles in society, especially
Hmm.
like 60s ka, when he tries to show how toxic masculinity
Hmm.
kind of creepy and lecherous men
Yeah, yeah.
making women's life hell.
Hmm.
That feels very. I'll be very honest. It feels very juvenile. It
Hmm.
feels very black and white. It feels
Yep.
okay. See, these are the bad guys. Women are being oppressed. Okay, I've seen this in films. I don't know, hundreds and several of times, and now I'm like, okay, I know this. Like, okay,
Hmm.
you're presenting me this, which is fine,
Yep.
but add something to it, add some depth to it, add like something should be there to make me think that okay, you're trying to present your own worldview, you're trying to present a
Hmm.
version of what you think about how the gender norms were there in the 60s, but it's very generic, to be very honest. It feels,
Got it.
again, I said, very black and white. It just feels like it's just there. So
But I think that's also to like Aryan, you go after this. Yeah, but I think it's also to do with the horror genre then, right? Because then it's like horror genre sometimes can like, especially he's operating in giallo sometimes, right? Basically here, doesn't it basically give him a sort of pass to play it a little black and white because he's basically going like horror may you generally like the mode of horror he's operating in, you have clear villains and heroes generally,
mhm.
right? So if you're adopting that film ka language, then I think the lecherous men and the victim women is probably like a though I guess what
Yeah,
him
but
and
no.
the co-writer, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I think that's a very good point. But the thing is that even in the giallo genre, for example, Suspiria, the
Hmm.
one thing that I didn't like about the film was how black and white it was. How
Okay.
the witches were portrayed as, kind of this evil, this thing, and
Hmm.
it's the real scary part of the film comes from its soundtrack and cinematography and the atmosphere
Yeah.
it creates. That's why I really
Yeah.
love the film.
Yeah.
Like the build up to the witches is brilliant, but when you
Ah,
see the
like the
witches and see the
exposition dump
character
is
and all
like
that,
whatever, right? That way.
yeah, that's there.
Yeah.
So it's
Hmm.
maybe because I have this certain reservation about the giallo genre, probably
Hmm.
that's kind of spills here also. That's how why I
Got it.
feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, Aryan, go ahead. Defend.
Okay. So when it comes to all Edgar Wright films, right? We
Yeah.
talked about this in recent episode. Like if you rob off every Edgar Wright film away from its style and presentation, they are as generic as stories could get.
Hmm.
Okay. Shaun of the Dead is about a guy being complacent in his life and about his position in relationships that he's having, whether that be his
Yeah.
girlfriend or mother. Scott Pilgrim, his most well-received film, not at the time, but now
Hmm.
his most mainstreamy film. Now that film is like a simple Bollywood masala coming of age story about a high schooler trying to impress a girl while also defeating her evil exes, right?
Hmm.
Now, even this film, as Vashist said, that it's very black and white in its storyline. Okay, yeah, it is, but it's in the presentation that it excels. It's about this
Hmm.
entire template of putting it, weaving it all in a 60s nostalgic London ka scenario. And
Hmm.
I mean, it bewilders me how people and critics have been receiving this film, while in reality, the most black and white tropey in the face film that I saw last year that was very well received by everyone was Promising Young Women. And
Oh.
that film was, oh my god, like people had an ending. People that didn't like that film had a problem with its ending.
Hmm.
I had a problem with the entire movie about how and okay, I love Carey Mulligan. Okay, I
Hmm.
even in that film she was amazing. Even Joe Boberman, right? But that film was like so in the face about it's like clearly black and white. And I know that the theme that it was going for was it's very timely, it's very important. More people need to watch such films and support these films. But this is how you do it. This is how you present your film. And that's what cinema is, right? Like presenting, telling same stories to a
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
extent, with certain
Yeah.
exceptions, telling the same story again and again with certain leeway with your own while introducing your own distinct style and
Yeah.
your own subjective notions about what cinema is. That's what filmmaking is, right? And I
Yeah.
think Edgar Wright is still excelling at that. I mean,
Okay.
he's got it. Yeah.
I I think I
This is
partially agree. But I think my counter to that would just be that in this film, unlike sort of Shaun of the Dead or other films he's written about male protagonists, I guess the female characters to many people and to some degree to me also feel much more generic than a Sean also. Like basically they feel that they have little identity to themselves. I think Eloise and Sandy have, but then everyone around them is fairly whatever, cookie cutter. And I honestly think removing the humor is a big uh, problem. I think I don't understand why he felt the need to completely devoid the film of it. Uh, it could have, I think, enhanced certain elements. But yeah, look, like, I saw other films this year, like postmodern slasher type of things, where I was like, the last night in Soho, on again the first 30 minutes, the swinging 60s, entering, people dancing, and two people switching around, like the girls, whatever, both of Sandy and oh, why do I keep on forgetting? Eloise switching while they're dancing, like all that choreography is fantastic, right? And probably better than a lot of stuff I've seen. But as a horror film or whatever, even as like a psychological drama, I was like, I've seen another film by Simon Barrett called Seance, which is similarly trashy. Like not similarly, actually, it takes itself much less seriously, and kind of conveys a similar type of thing. So I'm like, where are we sort of? I don't want to overpraise Wright just because he's like, more taking this more seriously. Uh, in fact, I think taking it more seriously does harm to the film. Vashist, say I actually want to then focus on the twist, which I'm very curious to know what you guys thought about.
Can I just slip in just one more thing
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah,
we can go to
definitely.
the twist? Is that
Yeah.
I thought when Aryan mentioned Promising Young Moon, I thought this was I know I first thing struck my head. Okay, this is going to be exciting because I'm a kind of a I love the film. I really
Hmm.
like the film.
Yeah.
But he also mentioned uh, how his Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, they also have generic tropes, which I
Hmm.
also agree with. That, but if you notice, like the difference between, for example, Shaun of the Dead, or basically the difference between the Cornetto trilogy and Soho is that in the Cornetto trilogy, the basic theme is, a guy living a mundane life, a boring life, probably a job or a police job that is boring or a corporate job that is boring, something like that.
Yep.
So he lives a mundane life, and his life gets kind of shifted or shattered by something completely extraordinary. Like
Hmm.
Shaun of the Dead, it's a zombie invasion. Hot Fuzz, it's conspirating village people, and world's end, it's literally aliens. So
Hmm.
that obviously this very idea itself is very interesting. So it gives you this thing that, okay, uh, you know this is a theme that he wants people to break out of their mundane lives, and I kind
Hmm.
of resonated with it a lot when I watched it like 4 years back.
Hmm.
I resonated with a great extent. I've seen this theme. You see this theme a lot. Being uh, you know uh, bored or being mundane in the job. For example, Tamasha is the poster boy
I was
of
about to
this
say
kind of
Imtiaz Ali.
things. Exactly. He
Yeah.
he fucked it up after starting from Jab Harry Met Sale, so he's gone there. But what Wright does is use this clash and use his own style to present it in a very comedic way, which I absolutely love.
Hmm.
It's a theme that has existed prior to this, but
Hmm.
I loved it a lot. I think in so that thing that uh, I don't know, it just doesn't come off as confidently or as uh, brilliantly as it has had in Cornetto Trilogy, and probably that's why it feels that since he isn't applying his style very well, it feels like I am focusing on the genericness of the themes, or the kind of gender roles that he wants to comment on.
Yeah.
Probably because of that, I
It is
think.
co-written by a female, just to like point it out, because a lot of people have kind of bashed the dude for the third act twist, in which I was a little surprised by what they were accusing the film of, but it's co-written by Christy Wilson Keynes, just to mention that. So and Edgar Wright, of course, had the story and the screenplay credit. But what do you guys think of the third act twist? So, firstly, were you like, oh wow, this happened? Firstly, that, and then secondly, like, what does it imply for the narrative, like, in general? It kind of gives way to one of my favorite, very showy moments, but very cool shot of Eloise going up the stairs and Sandy following her like a crazed killer. I really like the slow motion shot as they're moving up. Anyways, what do you guys think of the third act twist?
I
Anyone go?
think
Sorry, I wasn't a good moderator. Vashist, go. Sorry. Yeah.
okay, just like you said, Dhruv, I think I kind of predicted it.
Yep.
Old lady living in a decrepit 60s house
Yep.
alone. It's kind of a template. You already on that line. Okay, she is the one. She's the
Hmm.
kind of she is Sandy.
Yeah.
And obviously the way the film presents it, the reveal, like it's kind of a very earth-shattering twist, which it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like that's
Yeah.
there. But I really like the fact that uh, the twist, the way the twist is done, it's predictable, yes. But
Hmm.
what they want to say is that the amount of trauma and
Yep.
sexism and other kind of issues that happened to
Hmm.
her resulted in her taking such a drastic step that we start to we start to care about the people who we thought were villains, like the
Hmm.
men. For a brief moment, we are like, okay, now technically the villain is Sandy. That's
Yeah.
how he
Uh,
tries to shift the perspective, because he wants us to feel that this is a villain whose motivations we know,
Yep.
who we know why she's doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
So that kind of is a nice thing. I liked it, and also how it fits into Eloise's thing. I think there's something really dark going here, which
Hmm.
I don't know if he wanted to show in that sense or not. But the thing is that, you know, even after, when we feel that, Sandy is the villain, when she reveals
Hmm.
that she's been killing and all that, we still see Eloise kind of saving her and kind of being there for her,
Yeah.
kind of like still being the very, very close and good friend for her.
Yeah.
So, in spite of knowing what she's done, and even
Hmm.
in the end of the film,
Hmm.
when she comes out of a fashion show and sees her in the mirror,
Yeah.
she smiles and she's
Yeah.
very kind of joyful and warm towards her.
Hmm.
So it feels like, the like, how Sandy couldn't achieve her dreams, like her
Hmm.
dreams were crushed by the men around her,
Yeah.
and Eloise is able to achieve her dreams, or she's on the path. So I
Hmm.
think there's something dark going on here, is that he Wright is trying to imply that, Eloise is very much, through her connection with Sandy, that Eloise is very much into achieving her dreams, and she gives a utmost importance to her dreams, that she can kind of
Oh,
follow
okay.
anything that wrong that comes in, that
She
she
can
might
take.
do, or
Okay. Okay. Okay.
like the dream becomes so damn important that you can literally come down to killing people.
Okay. Can I
So
interrupt?
that's how the connection with Sandy comes. That's what I feel. Yeah.
So I didn't interpret it like this. And I think a lot of people actually have a problem that the film implies this. That's what I think. Like from whatever I have read, like whatever 1 star, 1.5 star, 2 star reviews, harsh people. Uh, they have really got into the fact that they turn Sandy into the villain. I don't think they turn her into a villain though. Like to me, like what Vashist was saying, that my sympathies didn't shift actually towards Sandy being like, I was like, right, are you really going to go there where you're going to shift it to Sandy being the villain when like hundreds of men kind of like destroyed her world? But then I think the Eloise moment is the moment which kind of retreats back from it. To me, like the Eloise saying, no, I won't kill her because you guys want me to kill her. Like the men want uh, her to kill their killer. To me is like, oh no, because then it doesn't like excuse these men of whatever things they did. And I think it kind of justifies her killing all of these men. So I kind of see the ending as much more positive actually, in a sense that Eloise and Sandy embrace each other in a way that no one else around them were embracing. Like that's my sort of interpretation, and I guess that's why I don't find the ending nearly as problematic as a lot of people have come to interpret it as.
Exactly.
So
So
that
the
was
ending is
my.
that's what I felt, that the ending is basically them finally coming to that middle ground and bridging those two generations, right?
Hmm.
Because we see we are clearly living in very polarized times. So even before a movie comes out, this a similar thing happened with the last duel. Okay, that was like the most, I don't want to use this word, but because it gets a lot of weird misinterpretation these days, but the Last Duel was as pro-feminist of a movie as one movie could be, right? It was such a well-structured movie about women emancipation in those times and all.
Hmm.
And people were bashing onto that movie way before it came out. It is showing as men fighting for a women and all. Like, go see the movie first, right? So it's the same with this movie, because what I felt is that rather than it showing ki, oh, Sandy is the villain, or the guys were the villain, or it's justifying her killing those guys. More than that, it's about how that toxic culture
Hmm.
about a certain point of time in history turned her into this being which was not hers. She didn't feel
I
herself,
mean,
and yet yeah,
she says right, Sandy died like 100 times.
exactly.
So
Exactly. Sandy died like a hundred times. So this is what the psychological, this is where it gets the psychological crux of it all a bit right. And this is the one of the rare times where the film actually succeeds at being somewhat like eerie and horror and
yeah,
psychologically.
like that's the creepier thing, I think.
Yeah,
Like the fact that
because it's
everyone around
implied.
them kind of uh
Exactly.
turned her into this person.
So the
But
film is more about her turning into this evil
yeah.
and she killing these guys. And then the end. I was, to be very honest, you guys were discussing the ending and what your thoughts were on the ending. To be very honest, during that entire sequence where he comes back and that entire stabbing and c- crawling sequence, I felt it a bit jarring because
Hmm.
I was like, this is like a so much of sensory overload, but I'm not feeling the way the movie wants me to feel, right? But in
Hmm.
the end, that entire mirror wala sequence, that was very well done because in that, it's like Eloise acknowledges that she's finally accepting and acknowledging her process of coming out of grief and redemption, right?
Hmm.
Because now she gives a smile to that her mother and Sandy's vision, and she
Hmm.
is with the guy that she found.
Yeah, yeah.
She's with that. I don't know. I don't even know that character's
The token
name.
character.
Yeah, the token character, right? He obviously very well, very badly set up and all, not fleshed out at all. A very comical guy in a bad way, obviously. So she's standing with him. So it's like finally she's trying to bridge that toxicity of two cultures.
Yeah.
And it's like coming on terms with the reality while also getting over that toxic aspect of it. Because
Yeah.
she just saw what happened to her mother, right?
Hmm.
So that's an optimistic ending. I mean,
That's what I thought. But Vashist's ending is quite like I was
that
I
makes
did.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, but if
No,
it
to
is
be
interpret. Sorry, go ahead, Vashist. No, no, go ahead.
no, to be honest, I never found the ending problematic. I think it was
Hmm.
brilliant. Like
Hmm.
at least the way I interpreted it. But now when I'm listening to you both, I think there might be a couple of one or two things that I might have glossed over probably because that's how I'm feeling.
Hmm.
But I don't know. There's some part of me that's because if you notice in the end when the mirror scene comes first, right does show her mother,
Yeah.
which represents the warmth and the affection that Eloise wants in her life and she craves for. But when then she goes and meets her grandmother and John, but
Hmm.
then she turns and looks at the mirror. And I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know if I felt that way or anybody else, but I felt the way it has been shot, the way there was a very sinister feeling to
Hmm.
how it was being done
It's
because
very interesting.
you have already established the warmth and affection with the mother. That's done,
Hmm.
and I didn't expect. I didn't when she turns her head towards the mirror. Obviously, I kind of thought that okay, this is going to be Sandy there. So I
Hmm.
thought that okay, if this is going to be Sandy, does she still be connected to this person who actually has done so many horrible crimes, even though we do understand why she has done, and there is a
Hmm.
very probable reason, societal reason why she has done what she
Hmm.
has done, but she still goes and how she touches the mirror
Touches.
like the
Yeah.
way she did in the start,
Hmm.
and there's a very sinister tinge to that scene. There's
Got it.
something go off in that. I felt in that sense.
Got it.
So probably maybe you can take like mesh both of these kind of things and say that okay, yeah,
That's a
both of things are there.
solid interpretation. I honestly didn't think about that, and now I'm very curious to like go. I'm going back to watch this on Thursday, so I'm curious to know
Nice.
I'm yeah. I'm going to the cinema to watch it again. Take that, Sanjeet. Uh, but yeah,
Somebody's lucky.
I no, I'm going just because one of my friends is coming over, and he really is a big Edgar Wright fan, and
It's also
I'm
out on
yeah.
VOD by the way, on 19th, I guess.
Is it?
This, yeah.
Oh wow, then I might not go. I'll
Yeah, that's
convince
why
you.
I was waiting for the release 19th पे VOD पे आएगा, then I'll just rewatch it
Oh,
again because
okay.
I think
Thank
this
you,
does
Aryan.
deserve
Okay,
a
I'm not
watch.
going then. Sorry.
No,
Sorry,
but you
Sanjeev.
should go. Like
Okay.
cinema mein, if you go, you should go. Like
I'll ask him. He'll probably want to go in the cinema, but yeah. But yeah, okay. So, is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Oh yeah, I forgot to even mention the Bollywood film that I thought about when the scenes were happening. In the the musical scene when she's going through all
Yeah.
the rooms.
Hmm.
Om Shanti Om.
Oh God, yeah, right.
I was like, this is like the
Similar
two
point.
worlds colliding with each
Yeah.
other, and I was like, oh wow, I that film came to my mind while watching last night in Soho. Who could have thought? Kind of like that. So I just had to put that in, even though it feels like
uh,
yeah
just one last question I think I had.
yeah yeah.
This is kind of like a about the writing of the film. I
Hmm.
just wanted to ask you whether did you feel like in that scene that Sandy goes up the stairs to kill Eloise,
Yeah,
right? She's like in a killing frenzy. She's like there's
yeah,
nothing stopping her from killing Eloise.
yeah,
And when Eloise goes into the bedroom and she tries to get the phone
yeah, yeah,
to call the police, and all the spirits come,
yeah,
and then Sandy gets in the room. I don't know if I did watch it correctly, or something might have been missed. But when she walks into the room, she imagines getting slapped by the
yeah.
guy,
Matt Smith's
uh,
character.
yeah, Matt Smith's character.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then suddenly her killing frenzy just disappears. Then she's like, she tells Eloise, "Yeah, you can leave. Go save
Yeah,
yourself and the boy."
yeah.
I was like, "Isn't this? Didn't feel like a very convenient way to just kind of wrap things up? Kind
I
of like
guess.
it's just like
Yeah. I mean, I think I just I think the kind of idea of that scene was driven more for me by the whole emotional element of Eloise saying no. And as soon as she said no, I was like, okay, it makes sense if uh, no, as in I won't kill Sandy. And then whatever happens from there, I was like, okay, I, and I think it's also the fact that she never visits that room, right, upstairs, Diana Rick's character. So I guess it's also like the whole flood of everything coming directly at her, and her realizing sort of the trauma of all these people who sort of,
no, but
uh,
she does a couple of times in the film.
she goes, oh
She
yeah, she does
does.
actually go. She doesn't enter the room, but she goes and looks right from outside.
Yeah, she peeps and just.
Peeps in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah, I
the
mean,
most. Yeah.
interesting. I will rewatch and get back to you if it holds up or if it feels very creaky. But yeah, on first impression,
Same,
yeah,
same.
I
Because
was
the
much more, yeah,
you were much more.
I was much more like fine with it. But let's see uh how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, because even I kind of now, even more now, I want to rewatch it because that optimistic part, I think I might have missed that.
Hmm.
So I think I need to just kind of, this is a different interpretation that's going in the film, or probably there are two, like there are many obviously, but then this
Yeah.
thing I probably didn't catch. So yeah, I should definitely give it
No,
a
no,
watch.
I'm most excited to revisit the first 30 minutes. I think they're just fantastic. So I'm like
Oh, they are
excited
brilliant.
to I'm excited to just be like elevated by that. Rest ka, I'll be like whatever. I'll
और
tell my
उसका
friend
असली
to, yeah,
उसका मजा हॉल में ही आएगा.
fine. I get the endorsement, guys. I'll go. I'll go. I'll go again. Anyways, anything more, guys? I'm not. I think I'm pretty much covered most ground with this film, which is yeah. Anything else from you guys?
So I'll just keep reinforcing this thought, yeah. Matlab, it's just
Hmm.
sad seeing such films bomb at the box office. Till how
Hmm.
long are we going to? I mean, even Scott Pilgrim was like a flop. It was considered a flop back when it came. It's like,
Big bomb that was. So this is
yeah,
to still whatever.
but even this film is like, it's not very well received, and especially it was released right after Eternals, right?
Our
In
favorite film of the year, Aryan. Yes.
oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. Yeah, so like I still feel like failures like this, like it's not a failure, but it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
box office failures like this.
Yeah.
Okay? It may impress more than a success, on a somewhat
Yeah.
more narrowly defined terms. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I mean,
people should still, yeah,
it's the death. What's the thing? The death of the mid-budget film or mid-range budget
exactly,
film, which
yeah,
is like you see
Exactly.
with the Last Duel and like this film and like
exactly, yeah,
which is I think for weird like strangely enough the mid-range thing is something I really gravitate to. I'm like my
mm,
favorite films of recent years have been like Widows and like Knives Out and all that stuff, right? In
mm,
terms of like Hollywood, I'm talking. So I'm like, if those go away, then you're left with these auteur directors directing like your Dunes or like your Tenets, which is
yeah,
fine, good for people who love them. Like both of the films, but
mm,
yeah, I think I really like filmmakers tackling this sort of middle ground genre, like Ryan Johnson or like Steve McQueen or whatever. Other people
yeah,
also, Ridley Scott, not that much, but I haven't seen Last Duel. I saw the trailer for House of Gucci though. Everyone's
yeah,
doing Italian accents,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like very Italian
But
accents. I was like, okay,
it's releasing here.
That will release everywhere. Lady Gaga's there, Gucci is
Yeah.
there, like Ridley Scott is there. Like,
And this film will probably score at box office, so like kind of like like makes up for the last duel issue.
House of Gucci, yeah, probably. But very
Mm.
strange why Last Duel didn't do well. It's got a good cast. It's got like writers are like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and Nicole Holofcener, I think, or something like
Like
that. Like she wrote
I
the
He's
guess
female
very
part.
famous.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess for $100 million film, like there was literally no marketing, like no buzz for the
For
film.
Last Duel. Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, it was
Exactly.
probably not mid-range budget. It was probably on the higher end, right? So,
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
on the
it
high
was
end. Yeah.
high.
okay,
And
okay,
it's like
okay.
it's a period drama which is almost 2.5 hours long. Plus,
Oh, that's
it's
true.
already got that. It already had that controversy
I
looming
won't
around.
lie. The 2.5 hours had turned me off also a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean,
Even I.
I'll watch it. It's coming out no soon on online.
I guess, yeah. I
No,
hope
no,
so.
I would have watched in the cinema. You know, it literally went out after half a week, so I couldn't like actually go to the cinema to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my excuse. But I also haven't watched Dune in the cinema. Just breaking news to me.
What?
Yeah, I
Serious?
haven't. Yeah. Uh,
Oh God.
I watched
let's
it
let.
twice, that too on IMAX.
I didn't. So I wanted to watch on IMAX, but the IMAX threw Dune out for Eternal, so I couldn't. So I was like, well,
Oh,
You shouldn't have even
ends.
waited that long. I've watched it twice in IMAX just on the opening weekend. There's no
I
excuse, bro.
Damn.
Please.
I think
Oh,
that's. I mean, I don't think I can watch it twice like that. But okay.
no, but honestly, Dune just got better with the second viewing, so much better. I
Oh,
hope it
Wow.
happens with
definitely.
Soho also.
Especially
Wow,
after
Dune got
watching it
better
and
with the
playing,
second viewing.
Yep.
because you watched it with this knowledge, na, ki it's literally half a movie and there will finally be
Yeah,
a sequel which is going to
I
be.
knew it from
हाँ,
before. I
like
read about.
if he's making a two-part film, then yeah, it's kind of obvious कि I'll stop somewhere midway into the Frank Herbert story. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious. I don't know if I can convince any of my friends to go and watch Dune, so I only have to go. नॉर्मल सिनेमा में बट IMAX पे नहीं चलेगा अब सूर्यवंशी चल रही है यार क्या कहाँ से जाऊंगा मैं ट्यून उस पे anyways we can go on about the state of cinemas here and yes we've paid enough like homage to like Sanjeev this episode. I think we're pretty much through it. Like, we've done a lot of cinema championing here. Okay, that's it for this episode. It was a great talk. I'm repeating Sanjeev only. Never mind. It was a great talk. Thank you for being here, Aryan and Vashist. Follow us, as in Queen is Dead, on Spotify. Like, subscribe. It really helps if you give a rating and review to us. You can follow Aryan at Aryan Talks Film on Instagram. He does great stuff about contemporary releases and other stuff about a compilation list of a lot of previous auto films like Bergman, I think you've written about, and a couple of others. Uh, Vashist also you can follow on Vashist. You can fill in the blank, please, on
my
Instagram.
Instagram is vashish.thakwani. That's it.
Okay, yes, that and follow me at Terminal Cinema if you want to. And that's it. That's a big sort of Edgar Wright wrap up. Khatam.
You're my world, you're every breath I take. You're my world, you're every move I make. Other eyes see the stars up in the skies, but for me they shine within your eyes as the trees reach for the sun above. So my arms reach out to you for love. With your hand resting in mine, I feel a part